Views expressed by Casters Guild members are only the opinions of that member, and that could change from day to day. Guild members may use mature language, but that in no way means they are mature. Listener discretion is advised.
Deadpool makes his way to Gotham City. The Switch leans in to mouse support, and Lilo and Stitch was a little disappointing. That's the spell we're casting tonight on Casters Guild. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Casters Guild. Guildmaster Rick would like to kill Nazis with you. Would you like to kill Nazis with Guildmaster Rick?
And I am your Guildmaster Baron Kane, and yes, I would.
It has been so long since Guildmaster Rick has had a friend to kill Nazis with.
Oh, I love him so much.
Oh my god, he might be. And like, this is bold because I've been like a Spider-Man fan for so long. Mm-hmm. He might be my favorite character from comic books, period.
I know that I was not... hold on. I don't think I was a fan of him before, but I could be getting him mixed up with somebody.
Sure.
No. He was an actual character. No, I was not really a fan, but that's because I wasn't really a fan of this style of comics. So, like the Sergeant Rock kind of style stuff. I think Sergeant Rock was Marvel, but same general idea. Yeah, I was never really a fan of him, but boy, they really did something with him in this cartoon, and I fucking love it.
I want to clarify for anyone who's listening, one, that we are talking about G.I. Robot. And
correct.
Two, when I say character from comic books, that comes from someone who does not read comic books. Like, I don't read comic books. So, like, everything I love about G.I. Robot comes straight from Creature Commandos. Just like everything I loved about Spider-Man came from cartoons and movies that I had seen. I'll be honest, I did read a couple Spider-Man comic books, and I did love what I read about it. And I might be seeking out some of the books that have G.I. Robot in them. Who knows?
And I was wrong. Sergeant Rock is DC, so that's why Sergeant Rock immediately jumped to my head. So,
well, you know, sometimes it's easy to get them mixed up, and it looks like DC and Marvel are going to be doing their first comic crossover in 20 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, if anybody remembers the other one. The other big one, I'm sure that there have been a couple, they say in the first one in 20 years, there had to have been some that happened between then and now. But I also don't know what they're referencing. But if anybody remembers the DC versus Marvel crossover and subsequently becoming Amalgam. Okay, so it probably isn't that one because that came out in 96. So... They're probably not talking about that one, so they're probably talking about another crossover that I am unfamiliar with. But the big one that everybody remembers was the DC versus Marvel, which, by the way, that was a miniseries that was co-written by Peter David. And if anybody knows, Peter David has recently passed on, which really sucks because he had a huge impact on a lot of comic books and novels. Like, he wrote my favorite series of Star Trek novels, New Frontier.
According
Sorry, I didn't mean to
that's,
but
that's awesome. According to the DC fandom wiki, the last crossover was JLA Avengers in September of 2023 to March of 2024.
Well, so these fuckers just lied to our face.
No.
What was the one before that, though? In 2023, 2024?
That's 20 years ago.
2023 to 2024.
I'm sorry. I misspoke.
Okay.
That is 100% on me, dear listeners. It is September 2003 to March of 2004.
I may have misheard you, too. I don't know, but in my head, it was like, that was 2 years ago.
Well, I'll see it in the edit. I'll see it in the edit. But yeah, September
Right.
2003 to March of 2004, JLA/Avengers was the last crossover.
Or just get in the comments and tell us which one of us was right.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. Let's see. Before that, it was Batman, Daredevil, King of New York.
Oh wow, really?
Let's see. If I go backwards and just keep going, before that it was Incredible Hulk versus Superman, Superman/Fantastic Four, Marvel
Really?
Unlimited Access,
Okay.
Batman and Spider-Man, Daredevil/Batman again, Batman and Captain America, Silver Surfer/Superman, Marvel All Access again, DC versus Marvel, Green Lantern/Silver Surfer, Spider-Man and Batman, Darkseid versus Galactus, The Hunger.
You say that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Darkseid. I've always pronounced it Darkside.
I've always pronounced it
Darkseid better.
I've always pronounced it Darkseid myself, but looking at it written, I was like, well, I sound like an idiot if I say Darkseid. It looks like Darkseid.
It looks like Darkseid, doesn't it?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I've heard it in like the cartoons and shit. I'm pretty sure that it's Darkseid. But you know what? One, why'd you spell it like that? Two, it sounds better as Darkseid.
I agree. I like it better than Darkseid.
All right, well, you know what that means.
It might be time for a guild decree.
Guild decree. It is now pronounced Darkseid.
Hell yeah. I love it. We're going to have DC fans
you know what?
mad.
And always has been. It's always been pronounced Darkseid. You guys have just been saying it wrong. And then if any of you out there start calling it Darkseid and someone corrects you, you send them to this episode to prove them wrong.
Let's see. Before that, it was Punisher/Batman, Deadly Nights.
That would have been a gross crossover. Good lord.
Well, right before that, they did Batman/Punisher, Lake of Fire. Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans. That's probably the most interesting title I've read so far, at least to me.
Yeah, I'd read that.
Batman versus the Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
Superman and Spider-Man, which leads us back to the very first crossover, Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man.
Nice.
It was a $2 book and it was called The Battle of the Century.
Hell yeah.
But this one that's coming out this year would not be a team up that I ever would have guessed. This one is just going to be called Deadpool/Batman.
I'm real, and I'll say this. I've kind of been wanting this crossover, not necessarily Batman per se, but I've been wanting Deadpool to cross over into DC and run into people who know who Deathstroke is.
Like Batman.
Like Batman. So yes, Batman, you fulfill that obligation, but it didn't have to be you.
Right.
Thank God it wasn't Tara. God, that would have been awkward.
That would have been...
Yeah, DC. Yeah, DC, we remember. We remember.
It would have been crazy if it was like Deadpool and the Cartoon Network Teen Titans.
Oh, no.
And Robin's just like, Slade!
But yeah, that would actually work really well. It'd almost be like Deadpool would get in there and be like, oh my God, people who understand me.
Especially if it's the new Cartoon Network Teen Titans.
Right, exactly. Jesus.
But the first issue will be Deadpool/Batman and will be published by Marvel. It's going to be released September 17th of this year. It is being written by Spider-Man writer Zeb Wells, while Greg Capullo handles the art and cover.
Okay.
Issue number 2, which will be Batman/Deadpool, will be published by DC and will be written by Grant Morrison with art by Dan Mora. And that will come out in November.
Hell yeah.
But if you're a fan of DC or Marvel and these aren't necessarily your favorite characters, don't despair. According to this article from Kotaku, both issues will feature some extra stories of other DC/Marvel crossovers, but what they are is being left a secret for now.
Mm-hmm. So kind of makes they really came out swinging though.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, how about we just take, essentially the two biggest characters in both companies right now.
It's crazy to think that like Deadpool
down.
is like the biggest name in Marvel right now, but it is. It 100% is.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to call anybody out, but if you disagree, it's you're wrong. I mean, I'm not saying he deserves to be.
Right.
I'm not saying he deserves to be the biggest character.
We're not even saying that we like it.
I love him dearly, but that's just how it is. He is their moneymaker right now. I mean, he may have been the one thing that was keeping the MCU alive with his very successful movie that he just did. I say as if Deadpool made that movie, but you know what I mean.
I'm sure in the mind of Deadpool, he made that movie.
Of course.
And if we consider that Deadpool is being played by Ryan Reynolds, let's be real, Ryan Reynolds made that movie happen.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, they're already working on another one.
And on the other side of things, Superman fans would love to argue it, but Batman has almost always been on top when it comes to DC.
Yeah, and especially since, like, the 90s.
Yes.
Was he that before? Maybe not, but I mean, he definitely is now, and has been for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, DC is basically named Detective Comics, and who is, like, the world's greatest detective, according to DC. I mean, they've been kind of leaning into him for a long time.
Right. I mean, the man walked into Catwoman's house, and it was just filled with cats, and had to have been just filled with litter boxes, just everywhere. That place had to have reeked, and all he could say was, "Got a lot of cats." World's greatest detective, everybody. World's greatest detective.
I was not sure where you were going with that, but I was happy to go along for the ride.
Oh, man. Let me tell you the laughing that... I mean, I know I had to have talked about it on this before, but man, when the Spawn and I saw that fucking scene in the theaters, all we could do was laugh. It was great. But yeah, so yeah, the two biggest characters in both respective companies going at it. They really led hard with this one.
Yeah. So Entertainment Weekly sat down and talked with Dan Buckley, the president of Marvel, and he did have a few things to say about it. He talked about how crossovers are the kind of thing that only happen once every generation of readers, and they do that intentionally, because if they did it too often, they just wouldn't be as special.
I mean, I guess that definitely makes sense. So
the Spider-Man writer who will be writing this book, Wells, said that after writing 60 issues of Spider-Man, he was looking for a break, but when they offered him a chance to work on the Batman crossover, he decided he, quote unquote, no longer needed a break and immediately hopped on board the project.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's a big deal.
I love this quote from Wells where he says, "In Batman, we found someone who has even less time for Deadpool's antics than Wolverine. But a citywide threat from Joker makes the strange bedfellows literally if Deadpool had his way. It has been a blast letting Deadpool loose in Gotham City and watching what happens."
Okay. Do you know what would be funnier than all that? Is taking Batman and letting him loose in the Marvel world. Like, just drop him in the middle of New York City.
Yeah.
And just be like, okay, do what you need to do. I think... Because, like, I keep seeing a lot of these, like, crossovers. It's always the Marvel characters going to the DC world.
Sure.
And, like, I realize that New York exists in DC. I realize that, Seattle exists in DC. All this stuff. But, let's face it, New York in the Marvel world, in the 616, that's a different animal.
Absolutely it is.
So I would just love to see fucking Batman's reaction to that.
I can almost see why they do it, because, I mean, Batman, who is he as a character without Gotham? Like, Superman, who is he without Metropolis? But you're right. It would be an interesting thing.
Yeah, they seem to be intrinsically tied to their home cities. Like, they seem to do that for all of their major heroes. Each of them has a city that they are just tied to. Which, and one could argue that with Marvel, but you see them moving them around to different cities all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard the argument made online that if Batman and Spider-Man swapped villains, they'd have each other's cities cleaned up in like a week.
Right.
Now that's something I'd like to see.
Yeah. They did. Well, they kind of did something like that, kind of. But it was more of a. It was more like they just swapped for like a day because they needed to, or some shit like that, or like someone was targeting one of them and they swapped. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it did happen for like a day, and it was funny. Hijinks ensued. So it was more of a shenanigan thing and not necessarily a problem-solving thing.
Sure. Now, I'm realizing with the response that you gave me, either I misspoke or you misheard me again.
Probably.
So you thought I said Batman and Superman, right?
Oh, maybe I did think that. What you're talking about? Who swaps?
Batman and Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man. See, I couldn't see the hyphen.
Oh, so yeah, that's fair enough.
It confused me. A deep cut joke, just in case anybody wondered. Oh God! Now that would be different because I would argue that Batman and Spider-Man have very similar villains.
They do.
Oh God, shockingly similar. Now,
but the way they go about dealing with them and the way that the villains have kind of evolved over time and the way that the villains act are very different because of the way that they deal with them.
Right.
But like if the Riddler, for example, sets up a puzzle specifically for Batman, and then Spider-Man shows up, it wouldn't even be an issue. Like Spider-Man would have that shit solved or get away around it in like two seconds.
Right.
So I've just seen the arguments.
And I will say, woe be to Spider-Man's villains.
Yes.
Because I can see Spider-Man just having fun with Batman's villains.
Yeah, the quips would be insane.
Oh my God.
And Spider-Man's villains are used to Spider-Man pulling his punches.
Right.
Which is something Batman's not gonna fucking do.
Well, and I will say, to be fair, Spider-Man is a lot stronger than Batman.
Yes.
However, I think that Batman not pulling his punches and Spider-Man normally pulling his punches, I'm pretty sure Batman's hitting them harder.
Yes. I still think Batman's hitting them harder.
Yeah. Well, and especially considering when he notices that they're powered. A lot of them are.
Yes.
As soon as he finds out that they're metahuman or whatever we're calling them, he's going to be jacking them up.
I'm also assuming that if Batman and Spider-Man switched villains for a week, that they would talk about it beforehand, and Batman would get a full dossier on Spider-Man's villains. Oh,
God. And I think that Batman would give Spider-Man the dossier, but he wouldn't check it.
No, Spider-Man would get it, and it would just end up under a slice of pizza somewhere, and he'd just, like, forget about it. Meanwhile...
Which let me tell you that in the Spider-Verse, where you have Peter B. Parker, the slob kind of guy, that to me is like kind of the most accurate Spider-Man that they've come up with.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that Spider-Man's a slob, but I mean he's a nerd and he's like a normal dude, and it's like if he went through that is him. Yes. That is what he's doing.
And in the reverse, Batman does his homework on those dossiers, like combs over every inch of them, and then puts together the perfect suit and set of gadgets.
Yep.
To take care of what he's got in front of him.
He will absolutely have time to prepare if that's what everybody's asking.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that they both have time. I'm assuming that both of them are going to have time to prepare. One of them will prepare.
Yes. But, like, that's the thing about, like, Batman is excellent with prep time, as everybody likes to say. As long as he knows what he's got to do and he can prepare for it, he's awesome. Spider-Man is the best improviser. Like, Spider-Man's going to pull 100%. Some shit out of his ass every fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes he might need to prep for a fight, but it's because he already tried the fight once, got his ass kicked, and then limps off to some makeshift lab somewhere, puts together some shit he should not be able to in the amount of time that he has, and then comes back.
Right. Yep.
Which that's how I see Spider-Man versus Bane going down.
Yeah, Spider-Man versus Bane, I definitely feel like he's going to see him as like a, just a super strong, not even like he's not going to immediately view him as, well, no, he does look freakish, doesn't he?
No, you know what? I take that back. I take that back.
Yeah.
He'll be able to take out Bane pretty easily. However, Spider-Man Clayface, I think Spider-Man gets his ass kicked the first time around.
Spider-Man and Clayface, yes, he is getting his ass handed to him. I totally agree with that one. I also think that the only reason why he doesn't flip out on Joker is completely because he didn't read the dossiers.
Yes, 100%.
Because like a lot of these guys, if he read the dossiers, he's going to be like, I feel uncomfortable with this person's existence. Not that he would kill them, but it's just like, what? Why?
Could you imagine like Peter Parker reading an entry on Victor Zsasz?
Oh my fucking god! Yeah, yeah. It's like, who let him get all those marks?
Meanwhile, when it comes to like villains like the Joker and like Victor, he like shows up to their crime scene, webs them up somewhere, and like just leaves them for Gotham PD.
Right. Who does probably nothing. Maybe lets them go. They're confused because Batman didn't drop him off.
Oh man, that's fantastic. So what we're saying is we're getting Batman and Deadpool, and I don't read a whole lot of comics, but like maybe I'll look into picking up this book. But what we really want is Batman and Spider-Man switch villains for a week. That's the book I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we do move on this from, actually, they did tease that there will be other Marvel DC crossover stories in this book. I imagine they'll just be kind of little tiny side stories. What other pair-ups would you want to see out of this book?
Ooh, this is a good question. Ooh. Well, I think it'd be interesting to see Superman actually meeting the Sentry.
Okay.
That could be interesting. Also, it'd behoove them to probably do a Superman book.
I think it would be cool to have a story where like Superman meets Sentry in a situation where, if I'm not mistaken on the comic book lore, when Sentry first started, he didn't realize that he was the Void. Like, he was just convinced the Void was like his nemesis.
Correct.
That is the stage that I'd want Superman to come in on.
Okay, and then kind of like maybe talk him down or something.
Well, I'd want it to start with like the Sentry finds out about Superman somehow and like asks Superman for help with the Void.
Okay, sure.
And it's like not until like halfway through the book that Superman figures it out. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. And you know what? And because what Superman is, I love the idea that, like, I would totally steal this from Thunderbolts. Like, he does not win by punching it.
No.
You know what I mean? Because he's Superman. He's hope. He's joy, happiness. This is what Superman is. He's not really the Snyder character. He is all of these good things. And he would bring that to Bob, and it would, the Void would go away. However they want to handle that.
Which kind of makes Superman like the perfect hero to take on the Void, and not because of his power set.
I totally agree. Yeah, it could come down to just Clark doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
which actually may even be even cooler if it was just Clark talking him down.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And I feel like it's something that could happen in this book with like how popular, Thunderbolts just made Sentry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's see.
I mean,
DC.
granted,
I think DC's got to do that one in their book that comes out in November. I know you're listening. I don't even want a writer's credit. Yeah. We don't want to write a writer's credit. Like let's just see that story, DC.
Yeah, I would just, if they just took my ideas, our ideas, your ideas, and just did it, I'd be so fine with that. It's like, man, whatever. Yeah. Whatever. If we would have had the option to get paid, you'd have never taken it. So don't pay us and use it so that we have the satisfaction of knowing that we had a good idea. That would be great. Who else? You think they'll do a villain one?
I feel like they have to.
Right? Well,
at the very least, anti-hero. Like, maybe not necessarily villain, but at the very least, anti-hero.
Sure. Like a team up or like fighting each other? Or both?
Starting with like a fighting each other and leading to a team up is like the only way to do like villain anti-hero, right?
The what again? I'm sorry.
Starting with fighting each other and then leading to a team up.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
You're gonna hate this. You're gonna hate this recommendation,
Maybe.
But it's the first thing that came to my mind.
Right.
Punisher Azrael.
I hate you.
I knew you would.
I don't mind that, but allow me to counter with, instead of Azrael, Red Hood.
Oh, that's so good. And Red Hood is like one of my favorite DC characters.
See, there we go.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
God damn, can you imagine? Can you imagine them in a fucking book together? Never mind. No, that's
here
too
comes
much.
the pitch. Here comes the pitch. We're still at the spot in Red Hood's career where he is becoming the head of every gang in Gotham.
Okay.
Frank Castle gets wind and decides he's going to take down the head of these gangs.
Sure. Why is he there? We don't know.
Fuck it. He's on vacation. Who knows?
Sure. He heard things from another gang.
Yeah. We know how the word travels in the criminal underground.
Right,
so it starts with Frank Castle going and trying to take down Jason Todd as like the new head of the criminal underworld. But then that's when we get our other big villain they have to team up against. Comes in, Frank Castle figures out what Jason Todd was actually doing, and they team up to take down Solomon Grundy. I don't know.
Here. I mean, this would be a good chance. This could be a good chance to bring in two bad guys from the like from Marvel and DC. They don't really have any iconic mob bosses in DC, do they? They're all just like normal dudes, right?
In DC?
In the mob. Yeah.
Penguin, Black Mask.
Ooh, fuck.
Solomon Grundy, depending on the book. Tombstone Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Actually, Tombstone and Solomon Grundy, I think, would be really cool. I mean, while not necessarily mob, several of Batman's villains have gangs. But Black Mask and Kingpin, or even Penguin and Kingpin.
Boy. Yeah, I mean, Kingpin and Penguin would be good. Boy, I'm just trying to think of someone cooler than that, though.
I do still like, I kind of threw it off on a whim, but Tombstone and Solomon Grundy. I like have Tombstone and his biker gang be a part of it.
Yeah, but Solomon Grundy is, I mean, what is his level of crime bossishness?
It's not, but like the way I see it happening is like Tombstone sees the power vacuum that's starting to open up with Jason Todd taking out all these heads of all these mobs without realizing, and all these gangs without realizing that he's taking over. Tombstone starts to move in and get Solomon Grundy in his muscle. So like Solomon Grundy is working for Tombstone.
Sure. We're also kind of forgetting about Two-Face too.
Oh yeah, there's always Two-Face.
I feel like Two-Face, I think, would have been a great Punisher villain.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially coming from previously being a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, but Two-Face and Kingpin wouldn't get along. Not in my opinion.
No, but that could always also lean into the story. They could both believe that they are manipulating the other until a crucial moment, and like that's what leads to their downfall.
Oh.
Because you have like Frank Castle and Jason Todd, who at the very beginning of the book, it seems like they'll never be able to work together, and then they do, and then it's kind of like a switch, right? Where it looks like Kingpin and Two-Face are working great together in the beginning, but then the crucial moment happens and it turns out they can't, and that's why they lose.
Yeah. We could do Two-Face and Jigsaw.
Okay.
They're very similar, at least in, facial.
Sure.
But I mean, at this point, they're like in their supervillain arc, they're both pretty, horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of like that. I kind of like Jigsaw and Two-Face specifically for their one being kind of like mob bossish kind of stuff, leaders, as it were. Both of them just ruthless. Granted, one of them has a coin that makes him ruthless or not. And I could see them working together very well, especially in odds with Red Hood and Punisher.
Right. And honestly, if the Red Hood, the premise of this book is Red Hood is in his era where he's knocking out crime bosses and taking over gangs and becoming like the head of crime in Gotham. I mean, like nothing's stopping you from throwing a handful of big villains in there.
Sure.
Which that's the premise of this what if, is like in the normal one, Jason Todd can mostly handle it until the Bat family gets involved. In this one,
right,
Jason Todd gets in over his head because he got too many supervillains mad at one time. And eventually he needs Frank Castle's help, even though Frank Castle was trying to take him down in the beginning.
And I could totally see too, like, because Jason Todd, even when he was doing that, he was still very much Jason Todd. I could see Jason Todd trying to take him on as a bit of a mentor as well.
Sure.
Like Frank being his mentor.
Yeah, because at that point he was mad at Batman for like not taking out the Joker. He sees Frank Castle and he's like, here's a guy who would have shot him in the head, and immediately takes to Frank Castle.
Yep.
All right, before we spend the entire episode talking about Marvel DC crossovers that may or may not happen, I would like to point out to everyone, once again, we are no longer running affiliates or sponsors, so please check out our Patreon. Please check out our merch store. Links in the description. And I would like to challenge our regular listeners. And, I hate it. I hate that I have to do this, but like just share our podcast with one person this week. If you're somebody who listens to us every week or listens to us semi-regularly, share our podcast with one person that you think would like us. I'm sure you know somebody.
Yeah. Preferably someone who also has not heard of us.
Right, correct.
Like don't send us a link to the podcast.
Yeah, we already listened. All right, so I know we've talked about it a lot already this season, but I'd like to take a moment to stop on the Switch.
Okay.
It has been confirmed that with these new Switch 2 mouse controls, that you will not necessarily have to use a Joy-Con on its side as if it were a mouse, which is something I was kind of concerned about. And that a lot of the Switch games that use mouse support, you will actually be able to plug in a USB mouse and use an actual USB mouse.
Seems fun.
You can also switch between the Joy-Con and the mouse as often as you want, kind of letting you use them both at the same time. I feel like this is going to change the game for like console first-person shooters and console shooter games in general. Like one of the big arguments against the people who play shooter games on consoles is just like the controller is inferior. But honestly, a Joy-Con in one hand and a mouse in the other seems like an ideal setup for a shooter to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't really get into the Metroid Prime series, even though I'm a huge Metroid fan. The Metroid Prime first-person shooter thing, it just does not work great with a Nintendo controller. But if they're telling me that the new one, I can use an actual mouse to do my aiming, I think I'm in.
I can't think of very many instances where I would need a mouse for the games that I play, but I could definitely see the benefit of it, for sure.
I think a lot of the stuff that you would need a mouse for, you play on your PC anyway.
Correct.
But imagine being someone who only plays Stardew Valley on their Switch, and how much easier it would be if you could just use a mouse.
Oh, yeah. As someone who was somebody who played Stardew Valley exclusively on the Switch and streamed it on Twitch, it definitely would have been hard if I didn't have one of those controller converter, like the controller converter things. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, you take the Joy-Cons out and you put them into the controller handle and everything like that. Right. But that said, that's the only way I play Switch now, or Stardew Valley now, is with a controller.
Oh, really? So you prefer that over a mouse?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
I know. I only said that because I don't play Stardew Valley. I don't know what the optimal control scheme is, but I do know quite a few people who play Animal Crossing who have said that if they could play it with a mouse, it would be a whole lot easier.
Oh, I know so many people that play Stardew Valley with a mouse and keyboard. Yeah. I am an odd one out on that one.
On the bad side of things, coming to Switch 2, a lot of retailers have gotten their hands on the official packaging for the Switch 2 now, and are saying that consumers are going to have a problem with this packaging, that it's going to lead to confusions in the stores, because the packaging for the Switch 2 looks nearly identical for the packaging for the Switch.
And yeah, I guess. But I mean, like, I'm looking at the packaging, right? Mm-hmm. And I see a big old 2 on it.
Right.
Big old 2. And, and I'm not going to say where I've heard these from, but I keep hearing more and more about how it's like, oh, we need to change this because this customer base will be confused and will not know what's going on, or they'll order something wrong. And I'm like, if they just took a second, and I'm not trying to kiss Switch's ass here. I think that there's going to be tons of things wrong with this, but this is not one of them. Again, I just think that if people just paid the fuck attention, it would be fun.
As someone who worked in retail when the Wii U came out, I'm going to have to disagree with you. Okay. Because if we're talking, there are gamers and then there's the general public. And a lot of what Nintendo gets sold to is general public. In this particular case, it may not be as much of an issue because I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to sell out pretty much immediately anyway. Mm-hmm. to the gamers. But like once it becomes a thing that is available to the general public, the Wii U was really hard to move when I was working in retail because people did not understand the difference between it and the Wii. They didn't understand that it was a different console. Some people just thought it was a controller that you buy for your Wii. Mm-hmm. And because Nintendo did not differentiate enough between the Wii and the Wii U, the general public just didn't get it. I had a lot of the same problems with the DSs when I was working in retail, between the DS, the DSi, the 3DS, the 2DS. A lot of people just didn't get it, and a lot of my time spent in those stores was explaining or attempting to explain, because a lot of the terms that you would use to explain the differences between these systems still goes over the head of the general public.
Boy, you're really, and no offense, general public, you're really causing me to lose faith in the general public.
I mean, I'm surprised you still had it. To be
I had some. A little bit.
But I could easily see it happening where you're going to end up with a lot of frustrated retail workers, where some mom or dad comes in and says, hey, I want to Switch 2. And they're like, sorry, we're sold out of the Switch 2. And they point at a box and they're like, what do you mean? You've got it right there. And then the employee has to explain that's not a Switch 2, that's a Switch. And then they go, what's the difference? And it's going to be a thing.
Wow.
I don't think it's going to cause any loss of sales for Nintendo. I want to put that out there. I don't think it's a problem that Nintendo will have. So I don't think it's a problem that Nintendo will fix. It's going to be a problem for your average retail worker. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to know that Having been in those shoes, Guildmaster Rick feels you.
Well, I just think that they should just not be stupid.
Once again, coming from the previous retail worker, I agree. I don't know if I ever told you about the worst interaction I ever had working at a game store as a retail worker, about the mom who came in to buy Halo for her son's Wii.
Okay.
And
okay.
it was a heated half hour at the least, probably longer.
What? I don't understand. When you told them that it wasn't on there, why? How did the conversation keep going?
So it kept escalating and kept going in different ways. What it really came down to is this mother was just convinced that I didn't want to sell it to her and that I was hiding it from her. But it all started with, basically her saying, I want to buy Halo. Okay. What system does your son have? Because at that point it was like, Xbox 360, Xbox, One, which,
sure.
What am I getting your Halo son? And she's like, that one. And she points at the Wii. And I'm like, well,
okay.
The Wii is Nintendo's console and Halo is a Microsoft Xbox exclusive. There is no Halo on the Wii. Well, my son told me that I could get Halo for the Wii.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there is no Halo for the Wii. There are some other games I could recommend that are like Halo. Are you calling my son a liar?
Yes. Yes. He lied to your face.
No, ma'am. I think your son is merely mistaken. Well, he said he played Halo at his friend's house on the Wii. Yeah, and this kept going for quite a while, where she was convinced that I just didn't want to sell her.
Okay. How did it end? How did it end?
Her storming out after talking to my manager.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so basically, like, she was like, at the time, I was the manager on duty, but during this interaction, that's when my store manager came in. And my store manager, realizing that I was kind of in that situation, kind of stepped in. So it wasn't like a let me talk to your manager situation. That happened a while back. Sure. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm the manager on duty. You're speaking to the manager. But he came in and he stepped in and got the fill in and was just be like, I'm sorry, man, but he's right. There is no Halo for the Wii. We can make some recommendations on games that are like Halo for the Wii, or we could get you set up with an Xbox. And that's when she just got really huffy and stormed out of the store. Yeah. The general public, when it comes to gaming, it is good to have what you can get things for clearly marked.
I do not approve.
But before we leave the video game space, Sony's Day of Play is upon us. And while Sony did just raise the price of the PlayStation 5, they just brought it back down to its original price because a $50 off sale for the Sony State of Play sale.
Okay.
I don't know how to feel about this because it's like you knew this Days of Play thing was coming up, and yet you raised your prices around the same time that the Xbox did just to bring it back down to its original price on a sale. And I'm assuming that when Days of Play is over, it'll just go back up. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah. Sony has me all over the place with their tactics. I don't understand a lot of the stuff that they try. I mean, I get it. I mean, are they backpedaling now? Is that what this is?
No, I mean, honestly, Days of Play is something they do every year anyway, and they do sales on the time. But it's just weird timing that they would raise the price of the console and then 1 month later bring it back down as a sale. Before I completely dunk on PlayStation or Sony, I will say that just like every other year, they have some other really good deals for Days of Play. You can get your year membership to PlayStation Plus at a pretty deep discount. I want to say it's like 33% off. They have $50 off PlayStation VR 2 headsets, $30 off the wireless earbuds, $30 off the wireless controllers. Lots of really good deals. And the games that they're giving away for free with PlayStation Plus this month are insane. It's a great deal. But the raising the price of the console and then a month later putting it on sale for the price that it was before the price raised, I don't know, man. It feels a little scummy, but at the same time, it's just like...
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's one of those... To me, it feels like... I feel like they knew what they were doing this whole time. We're going to raise the price, and then we'll drop it to make everybody think that they're getting a hell of a deal, or we need to rush and get it before it goes back up. And I think that it's going to work for them.
Yeah. I also think when it comes to like Xbox and Sony, like Microsoft and Sony both raised the price of their consoles at the same time. And then a month later, Sony drops theirs for a sale while Xbox is still up there. And I think that's going to make up a lot of people's minds if they were on the fence between a PlayStation and an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
A solid business move, but in my opinion, still a little scummy.
Yeah, I agree.
But as long as we're talking about scummy moves, let's talk about this Lilo and Stitch live action remake. Spoilers ahead for the Lilo and Stitch live action remake. I have not seen it, but I have had it completely spoiled for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of other Disney fans out there, I am not a fan of a lot of the changes they made.
Agreed. I know initially, and this is one of the minor ones, I would assume, to a lot of people, but one of the ones for, like, the biggest one to me initially was the two aliens. I know Jumba is one of them, and I can't remember the name of the other one.
Legally.
Ah, yes, that's probably why I didn't remember it, because it's crazy. But they gave them disguises, but they were like human disguises, like accurate human disguises.
Right.
I didn't mind that Zach Galifianakis didn't try to do the accent. I didn't really care about that. But, like, I don't know. I thought that part of the charm of those guys was putting on not great disguises. Yeah. And the other one, dressing in drag.
Yeah. If I were to... If I were to rank the changes that I have to complain about from least egregious to most egregious, the removal of Pleakley's drag disguises is probably least egregious.
Right.
But yes, it is still egregious and should not have happened. As a matter of fact, that's the order I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go from least egregious to most egregious. That way we don't lose any momentum here.
Sure.
The next thing, and you're going to think, wow, this is the next least egregious. There are more egregious things than this. One of the big story beats in Lilo and Stitch is that Lilo goes around taking pictures of the tourists to kind of give them a taste of their own medicine. And she keeps a wall of tourists. You know what I mean? Because tourists take pictures of the locals and everything like that. Mm-hmm. All of the people that she takes pictures of, the tourists, have been replaced with native Hawaiians.
Okay.
So, like, the whole story of she's feeling as though her island's being invaded, and so therefore she's turning what the tourists are doing her back on them is just gone. And instead, she's just a weird little kid who likes to take pictures of people.
Okay.
Let's go with the next thing that I think is next most egregious.
I think we're going to agree with what the most egregious one is, though.
The character of Captain Gantu has been completely removed from the movie.
Is that the shark?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
So the point of Captain Gantu was he was the one who was hunting down Stitch.
Right. He was the main antagonist, essentially.
Correct. Which left Jumba, who is technically also trying to hunt down Stitch, but he got to have like this kind of redemption thing where eventually he works with Stitch and kind of joins the like found family of Stitch as kind of like a weird uncle, if you will. Instead, he remains the main antagonist for the entire movie and takes on the role that Captain Gantu had.
Right, which didn't make sense to me. No.
And never becomes like a good guy or works with Stitch. There's kind of two stories going on in Lilo Stitch. You have Stitch's story and Lilo's story, and they both kind of end in found family. and to remove basically Stitch's dad from the equation as part of the found family is a really weird choice.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are upset that Jumba doesn't get his redemption arc, especially people who are like fans of the sequels and like the series that came after, which has a lot of Jumba being a good guy in it.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to most egregious.
Hold on, let me think if I can think of any less egregious stuff first.
Okay.
God damn it. No, we may have hit them all. Go ahead.
So, like I was saying, you kind of have Stitch's story, and then you have Lilo's story, and in Lilo's story, Nani, her sister, becomes the guardian of Lilo because, you know, their parents have passed away or no longer in the equation, and Child Services is kind of coming in and is threatening to take Lilo. And so Nani has to do what she has to do while all this alien craziness is going on to try to keep Lilo. And the end of the original movie, they all get to stay together as Ohana, as family. It's like the whole thing. They have this found family and they get to stay together. In the new live action one, Nani gives up Lilo to Child Services so she can pursue her dream of becoming a marine biologist.
Yeah.
Fucking what?
Yeah, and I've seen some arguments online. Like, didn't she ends up with people she knows, right?
She does end up with extended family who basically live on the same street.
Which is fine, whatever.
Just not with Nani. And Nani gets to come back because, like, she goes and bees a marine biologist on, like, the mainland. And, like, she can come back and visit Lilo whenever she wants because of some stupid, like, portal thing. But it still completely undercuts the original message of the original movie.
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah, because she was fighting through the whole thing. And it's like, you know, I would dare anybody to be like, oh, it's a more realistic ending. Or wouldn't you want her to, you know, go after her dreams? And it's like, okay, well, since it is an unrealistic, like, this, there's aliens and shit in this, you could have totally ended it with her keeping Lilo and still going and pursuing her dream.
Yeah.
You could have completely done that.
Or even better, make it so she's able to pursue her dream because of. Like, make it so, I have this found family who can now help me with Lilo. And, like, you know, don't make Jumba like the villain, you know, bring in Jumba and Pleakley, the found family, just like they do in the sequel, just like they do in the series, where they're able to help. And because she has the help, and because, you know, the help of alien technology, I can pursue my dream too and still be Ohana to my sister.
Yeah.
The thing is, Disney already got what they wanted out of it. They had a crazy opening weekend for Lilo and Stitch. A ton of people went to see this movie. A ton of people spent money on it. Disney got their profits. Whatever. It's just like, you're going to take out everything that made... It kind of takes out everything that made that movie great in the first place and just, like, kept the silly alien slapstick. And it's like, that's like, funny. That's, like, good. But, like, you have the commentary on the invasion of Hawaii by tourists. You have the found family with Stitch. You have the family, like... the whole thing with Ohana and, like, family never gets left behind, where, like, Nani will do whatever it takes in order to keep her sister. And that is the heart of the movie, is all of those things, and all of those things are what got ripped out of it.
Yeah, I will say that one of the big things for me was that ending. What was them all being able to stay together. It doesn't make sense to me to take that away.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely not a feel-good moment, for sure.
But that's exactly how they try to play it off. They try to play it off in a way that you're supposed to feel good for Nani because she does give up her sister in order to pursue her dream. Like, it's supposed to, like, they play it like it's this big triumphant moment for her.
Right. Well, you know what? They're making it seem like a triumphant moment for her. She's overcoming, and this is the way they're putting it out. I'm not saying this is what she is. She is overcoming the burden that is her little sister.
Yeah, which is not cool.
That's how they're putting it out there.
It's not cool at all. I don't know. I was gonna probably see this movie in theaters because it seemed like for some reason my kid likes the live action movies better than the animated ones. I don't know, but I was gonna take her to see this, and now I think we'll probably just go see something else.
Also, didn't they take out the ugly duckling scene?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know because I haven't seen the movie, but I think I heard something about that.
Yeah, I'm not. That's I've heard that it's not in there. I'm trying to find out.
Yes, I just looked it up, and the ugly duckling moment is one of the prime examples people use as to some of the things that got cut from the animated version to the live action version.
Lame. It was a good scene.
Yep.
But they're buttholes. And honestly, this is just even more so why I don't even bother with the live action ones, because they change them so fucking much.
I won't lie. I thought the Aladdin one was decent.
And that's fine. Everybody can like what you like, but it's like, ugh.
I like that Princess Jasmine got a song and got to be more of her own character.
Mm-hmm.
While he will never be Robin Williams, I think Will Smith did a pretty good job when it came to the genie.
Sure, that's fair. I think that anybody going into that should recognize that it's not going to be the same, but...
Yeah. But I only point that out because it is like the exception to the rule, in my opinion. Sure. Like the rest of them, not really worth your time. And even then, the live action Aladdin is not a replacement for the animated Aladdin, in my opinion. Honestly, it tells a slightly different story, but it's a story that still needs to be told and isn't necessarily a betrayal of the original source material. It's just a good movie on its own, which is something you can't really say about a lot of the other live action stuff. I can't think of any other really good live action stuff. And with that, I think that's where we're going to end it this week. Email us at castersguild@gmail.com. Let me know what I should be going to see in theaters this summer, since I won't be going to see Lilo and Stitch live action. Join us on the Discord. That's where all the fun stuff is happening. And we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.
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 Bye. See you later. Bye.
Bye.